Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Back to Ashes. My name is Phoenix. I'd like to take a second and acknowledge the elite members of the channel. Thank you so much for your continuous and dedicated support. It deeply means a lot to me and this channel. Without further ado, it is time to go back to ashes, for once we arise from the ashes, we are a bigger, brighter, stronger, and a happier person every day. Sit back, relax, kick back, grab a snack or tuck in and get warm. Get ready for your dose of vocal melatonin entitled True Scary Stories. Right after this intro, there will be an ad. After the first story, there will be an ad. And after that, there will be no more ads within this video. I was 16 when I first met Gabriel, or whatever his real name was. Back then, I was drowning in League of Legends, my nights consumed by the glow of my monitor, my world narrowed to the clatter of keyboards and the chatter of online friends. I haunted Facebook groups, hungry for new players to team up with, to talk builds and strategies with. That's where he found me, slithering into my life through a mutual friend, Valerie, a girl from my neighborhood. His messages were warm at first, casual, like a hand extended in the dark. He lived in a nearby city, close enough to feel familiar, far enough to stay a mystery. We'd play LOL, our voices crackling through Skype, laughter filling the static. It felt safe. It felt like friendship. I was so naive. Valerie's birthday party was the first time I saw him in the flesh. Her house was just around the corner, a short walk through streets that always felt too quiet at night, the kind of quiet that makes you check over your shoulder. The party was loud, a blur of music and teenage chaos, but Gabriel stood out. His eyes locked onto mine the moment I walked in, a smile curling his lips that didn't quite reach them. We clicked, or so I thought, talking games and laughing over stupid jokes. But then he tried to pull me into a dark room, his hand grazing my arm, his voice low and insistent. "Come on," he said, like it was a game. I froze, my stomach twisting. "I have a boyfriend," I said, stepping back. He shrugged, his smile flickering, and let it go. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Over the years, he burrowed deeper into my life. I didn't have many friends, too shy, too awkward. So Gabriel became my anchor. He'd visit my city, crash at my house, sprawl on my couch like he owned it. We'd watch shows, game until dawn, share takeout pizzas. He was my best friend, or so I told myself. But looking back, there were signs, faint at first, like cracks in a foundation you don't notice until the house starts to collapse. The way his gaze lingered too long, the way his jokes carried a barbed edge. I ignored them. I didn't want to see. It was after my mom died in 2016 that the cracks became chasms. Grief had hollowed me out, left me raw and vulnerable. And Gabriel was there, always there, his presence suffocating. His touches became accidental, a brush against my wrist, a hand lingering on my shoulder. His greetings shifted, kisses landing too close to my mouth, his breath hot against my skin. His compliments were laced with poison. "You're so beautiful," he'd say, then pause, his eyes narrowing. "If only you'd lose a bit of weight." Each word was a needle, subtle but sharp, meant to unravel me. He'd talk about my exes, twisting their flaws into betrayals, convincing me they were trash, that my friends despised me. He made bets with others, cruel wagers on how long my relationships would last, like my heart was a game to him. I didn't see it then, but he was isolating me, carving away everyone else until I had only him. By 2019, I'd moved out. My own place, a small victory against the weight of my past. I invited him over to help set it up, thinking it was innocent, thinking he was still my friend. When it was time for him to leave, he grabbed my face, his fingers digging into my cheeks, his eyes wild with something I couldn't name. He tried to kiss me, his grip so tight, I felt my bones protest. I twisted free, ducking under his arm, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. We stood there, staring, the air thick with unspoken threats. He left, the door slamming behind him. He apologized later, his words dripping with fake remorse. I forgave him. God, I was so stupid. He was my only friend, and I couldn't bear to lose him. Then the pandemic hit, and everything changed. Gabriel was staying at a friend's place just blocks from my apartment. A coincidence that felt too perfect, too staged. He asked me to come over, said he needed help dyeing his hair blue. I went, desperate for a connection in a world locked down. His friends were there, a group so warm and vibrant it felt like finding a new home. We played board games, laughed over VR sessions, stayed up late talking about nothing and everything. For the first time in years, I felt alive. But Gabriel didn't. His face darkened when I laughed with the others, his eyes tracking me like a predator, watching prey stray too far from the herd. One of his friends pulled me aside, his voice low, nervous. He made me show him your messages, he said. He thought we were, you know. Gabriel had been reading my private conversations, sifting through my words for something to weaponize. His jealousy grew teeth. His eyes, once familiar, turned black, like voids that swallowed light. He started talking about his other personalities. Mark, who grabbed at me, his hand too bold, his touch leaving bruises on my skin and my mind. And Carl, a sleazy caricature who leered and strutted, his words dripping with arrogance. I didn't know if they were real or a game, but they terrified me. One night, as Mark, he told me a story that made my blood run cold. He'd met a girl at a bus stop, he said, in the dead of night. They'd had sex right there in the dark. His voice was flat, his eyes gleaming with something cruel. I couldn't shake the image. A lonely bus stop, a girl who didn't know what was coming. Was it a lie, a boast, or something worse? Something he'd done. The thought coiled in my gut, refusing to let go. His behavior grew erratic, unhinged. He talked about getting euthanized for depression, claiming a lawyer was helping him. Euthanasia isn't legal here, never has been. It's a bizarre, chilling lie, and I called him out. He doubled down, his voice sharp with accusation. Then he accused me of stealing his mother's credit card. I'd never met her, never been to a city, but he spat the words like they were the truth, like he was building a case against me. Each conversation left me dizzy, like I was falling into a maze with no exit. One night, I had an emergency and asked him to watch my dog. He agreed, his voice too eager. When I got home the next morning, the apartment was spotless, unnaturally so, like he'd scrubbed away evidence. He greeted me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and he left. But he left his Facebook open on my computer. Something cold whispered in my mind to check it. I wish I hadn't. There were messages, dozens of them, to one of our mutual friends. He called me a slut, said I gave attention to everyone but him, that I owed him sex for his friendship. There was a photo, time-stamped at 4:53 a.m., showing the outside of my apartment in the dark, the windows glowing faintly. He'd been outside, watching while I slept. My stomach lurched. I kept scrolling, each message worse than the last. He shared my trauma, my mother's death, my struggles, with strangers, using my pain to paint himself as a victim. He'd messaged other women, spinning lies about me, saying we were in a relationship, that I'd cheated on him, that I was toxic, manipulative, living with him. None of this was true, but the words burned, each one a violation. Then I found the conversation with another friend, a girl we both knew. He told her we were dating, long-term, that I begged for his forgiveness after betraying him. She'd also found it odd. She said that he never posted photos of us. Then she told me something that turned my veins to ice. Years ago, he'd used her phone while she showered, sent her nudes to himself, and forgot to delete the evidence. My mind flashed to my own phone, a folder of private photos I'd found open one day, a password-protected folder I never touched. I hadn't thought much of it then, but now I knew. He'd done it to me. He'd stolen pieces of me, kept them like trophies. I cut him off that day, blocked him on everything. Facebook, Skype, my phone, everything. I told our mutual friends, laid bare every sick detail. As a courtesy, I sent him one final message, explaining exactly why I was done, why he'd never hear from me again. I thought it would end there. I was wrong. A year later, a message came from a new account. It started with an apology, all soft words and regret. But it turned fast, venom seeping through. He said I'd ruined his life, that I'd driven him to depression, that I lied about not being with him. He ended it with 3 words that made my skin crawl. I love you. I blocked him again, my hands shaking, but his words lingered, a stain I couldn't scrub out, and I haven't heard from him since. But I still look over my shoulder, still flinch at the sound of a car idling too long outside my window. I see his face in crowds sometimes, and maybe it's just my fear painting him there. Gabriel, Mark, and Carl, whatever you are, you're a shadow that clings to me, a weight I cannot shake. You watched me, manipulated me, stole pieces of me I'll never get back. I don't know what you wanted. Not really. To own me? To break me? All I know is that I escaped. But the cost of years of trust, of safety, of sleep. Let's not ever meet again. Not ever. I'm Christian, and in the 90s, I was a mall cop at a decaying shopping center in a nowhere town, a place where hope went to die. The mall wasn't much, just 20 stores, a food court, and a fountain where kids tossed coins into murky water, their wishes sinking into the slime. It was a cramped, suffocating labyrinth, its flickering fluorescence and peeling paint giving it the feel of a tomb. But the real horror was behind the scenes. A sprawling warehouse complex, a warren of storage units that stretched far beyond the shopper's world. Businesses leased those dim, dusty spaces to hoard their excess stock, and local outfits rented corners for their own refuse. It was a shadowed maze, thick with the weight of secrets. My job was to patrol this rotting kingdom, keeping watch for petty thieves and lost kids. For the first year, it was dull. Some kid leering at a girl, a kid found in a photo booth, a few teens dared to sneak into the warehouse. Management's fury over those kids was strange, their eyes wild with something more than concerned. I was young, cocky and blind to the signs. The mall had a pulse, and it was starting to quicken. The unease began like a whisper, faint but persistent. It was a midweek afternoon, the mall droning with its usual lethargy, when Bryn, a grizzled guard with eyes that saw too much, hissed over the radio. "Code for an unattended package, Christian. Your sector." His voice was a blade, cutting through the haze. Post-Oklahoma City, abandoned bags were red flags, each one a potential catastrophe. We'd found a few before, forgotten purchases mostly, but this one felt different. It was under a bench by the fountain, in a corner where the light seemed to curdle. A duffel bag, filthy, crusted with grime, like it had been exhumed from a grave. The stench hit me as I approached. Piss, sharp and vile, stinging my eyes. Who pisses on a bomb? I thought, my bravado masking the chill creeping up my spine. Like an idiot, I grabbed it, yanking it from its hiding place. The bag gaped open, revealing a black sweater, black jogging pants, black socks, all threadbare, reeking of unwashed flesh. Nestled among them was a plush cat, its fur matted, its eyes dulled by years of desperate love. I didn't linger on it, and didn't want to imagine who it belonged to. I radioed Bryn, said it was nothing, and dragged it to the dumpster, washing my hands until they burned. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Bryn's voice, same code, same dread. Another duffel bag, this time by a plastic plant in a forgotten alcove. It was newer, no smell, but identical. Same brand, same black clothes, no toy, just food wrappers, Twinkies, beef jerky, the kind of junk you'd eat when you're running from something. I peered inside, my stomach nodding. 2 bags, 2 look-alike to be a chance. I tossed it in the dumpster, but the act felt like burying evidence. The 3rd bag was worse. A teenage clerk found it in a women's dressing room, her face ashen as she described the smell. Rotten, like death itself. I strutted in, playing the tough guy, but my pulse hammered. The bag was the same, the clothes identical, the stench, a thick, cloying fog. I didn't look too closely. I just wanted it gone. Into the dumpster like a ritual I couldn't stop. Chris, my friend, said it first, half laughing over coffee. What if it's someone living in the mall? I seized the idea, my mind racing. The warehouses were a labyrinth, with camera blind spots and forgotten corners. Cheap stores stocked those bags and clothes. Someone could be stealing them, wearing them until they rotted, then discarding them. Chris called me paranoid, but I saw it in his eyes. He felt it too. The mall was watching us. A 4th bag appeared in a men's restroom, its contents spilled like a warning. Same clothes, same wrappers. By now, the guards whispered about it, the story growing claws. I started seeing him, a figure in black, always slipping away, his face a smudge in the crowd. He was there, then gone, like a ghost mocking me. The mall's corridors seemed to tighten, the air heavier with every step. The night shift was my chance. A breakup had left me hollow, and the silence was a balm. It also let me roam Warehouse B, where the cameras failed, and the senior guards got cagey. They'd warn us off certain areas, muttering about private leases, but I wasn't buying it. Something was hiding in those shadows. My first night patrol was alive with dread. The warehouse lights buzzed, casting jagged shadows across endless shelves. I whistled, pretending I was hunting a phantom. Then I found it. A shelving unit from a shuttered clothing store. Its boxes untouched since the place died. I poked around, and there it was. A nest of boxes, tapes into a crude den, hidden yet blatant. My baton fumbled as I extended it, my bravado crumbling. I cried out, "Anyone there? Hands up!" No answer, just silence that pressed against my skull. I parted the flap, and the stench was a weapon. Human, unwashed, a reek of existence distilled to its foulest essence. Inside was a sleeping bag, stained and defiled, padded by others. Stacks of black clothes still wrapped in those duffel bags, pristine in their plastic. The shelves belonged to a store that vanished overnight, its stock left to rot. Someone had claimed it, built a life in this forgotten corner. I radioed Mom, our saintly guard, my voice shaking. I think there's a guy down here." Before she could reply, the lights died. Total, suffocating black. The switches were closed, and no one else was here. It was him. Then came the footsteps, boots, heavy and deliberate, charging through the dark. My flashlight caught him, a gaunt figure in black, eyes like pits, slamming into me. I hit a shelf, pain exploding in my shoulder. He muttered something, a curse or a prayer, and fled. I chased him, pride and fear driving me, yelling for Mom to call the cops. The warehouse was a void, my flashlight a feeble weapon. A door slammed, leading to the break room between warehouses. I burst in, bracing for an attack, but found only an open bathroom door. The women's restroom, a single stall for workers, had a vacant cover ripped off, discarded on the floor. I shone my light into the duct, hearing or imagining someone crawling away. Then I saw the mirror. "Fuck you and eat shit," scrawled in Sharpie. The words jagged, personal, a venomous promise. I didn't follow up. I wasn't a hero, just a scared kid with a cheap baton. The cops came, confirmed the squatter. He'd built dens everywhere, closets, crawl spaces, gaps between stores. Each had the same bags, clothes, wrappers. No boots, though. He kept those. No ID, no plans, just that plush cat from the first bag. The one I'd thrown out. I wondered if that's why he cursed me. Management buried it, tightened security, and moved on. I left 18 months later. The mall's shadows etched into me. Years later, my girlfriend, who is now my wife, showed me a local paper her mom sent. A man, gaunt and sickly, arrested for stalking and conspiracy to kidnap. His mugshot was him. Those eyes, that face, caught in my flashlight's beam. He'd fixated on a woman, his notebook a shrine to her. The charges faded, or he did. I don't know. The mall's gone now, raised for progress, but its ghosts still linger. I see that plush cat in my neighbor's, its eyes accusing, and in the dead of the night, I hear those boots, thundering closer, always just out of sight. My name's David, and I used to be an undercover cop in the grimy underbelly of Washington, D.C., posing as a street junkie. My cover was a work of art, honed over 3 stints, each one sinking me deeper into a world of shadows and desperation. I wasn't just playing a part, I became it. It was all in the physicality, the way I carried myself. Stomach sucked in tight, like cramps were eating me alive. Shoulders slumped, heavy with invisible weight. A frantic twitching walk, my hand wiping phantom sweat from my brow. That was the trick. Make them believe you're one of them. On the streets, I was invisible, a ghost, slipping through crowds, unseen by anyone except the other junkies. Once I won their trust, the city streets opened up to me like a wound. The job was intelligence, gathering whispers from the gutters. I'd lived the life for months, sleeping in alleys, eating scraps, dodging the dope and disease, then vanished for a vacation to visit my parents in the country. A week or two later, I'd be back, refreshed, my cover intact. Early on, our task force scored a win, busting a violent gang assault tied to the narcotics trade. A missing package had sparked it, a civilian caught in the crossfire. We sent those bastards to federal prisons, and the city breathed easier. But it was a hollow victory, a spark in a powder keg. A month later, the bodies started piling up. Overdoses, they said. 500% more than usual. A grim tide washing over D.C. The chief was livid, demanding answers. The official line was a bad batch of heroin. But I knew better. Some of the dead were veteran junkies, street-smart cats who never touched poison dope. They knew how to spot a hot batch, which dealers to avoid. Yet, there they were, dropping, their eyes glassy, their veins burned out. Something was wrong, something deliberate, and it wasn't just bad drugs. It was a purge. I hit the streets harder, my junkie shuffle masking a hunter's focus. I didn't ask too many questions. That blew my cover. But I put out feelers, listening to the whispers of scared addicts and cagey dealers. The poison wasn't coming from one corner or one pusher. It was everywhere, like a plague sown into the city's veins. People dodged one dealer, thinking he was dirty, only to die from a bag they got from their safe guy. Rumors swirled, fear spread, and the junkies were getting sick, running out of sources. 4 pharmacies were hit in one day. 4. The city was rotting, and I was wading through the decay, chasing a ghost. Unlike the others who shied away from the bad dope, I hunted it. I wanted the source, the dealer lacing death into every bag. Locking up junkies was one thing, but letting them die by the dozens wasn't in my job description. I'd seen the worst of them. Thieves, liars, predators. But maybe 40% were just broken people. Good souls who made terrible choices. Some I might have called friends in another life. So I tore through Deanwood, buying up every bag I could. Each one sent evidence for testing. But the lab was slow, swamped with backlogs, and every bag I turned in came back clean. No toxins, no poison. Everyone seemed to find the hot dope. Everyone but me. Then, one gray morning, I got my wish. I hit my usual spots, slurring my street name, Jody, to the junkies who'd talk. They pointed me to my regular guy, a low-level pusher I'd bought from before. We met in our usual alley, but something was off. He wasn't on foot or his beat-up bike. He was in a car, engine idling, his eyes darting like he was waiting for something to pounce. "Get in," he said, voice flat. "We gotta go someplace to get it." My gut screamed, but I played along, climbing into the passenger seat. We drove to a trap house, its windows boarded, the air inside thick with mildew and menace. Instead of a quick handoff, I was led upstairs to a bedroom that doubled as an office. A man I'd never seen, a lieutenant, too high up for street deals, sat behind a scarred desk, his eyes cold, assessing. He didn't just hand me the dope. He made me sit, his questions coming like jabs. "What's your name? Where you from? How long you been in D.C.? Who's got the best product? Ever been picked up by the cops?" I answered as Jody, weaving truth with lies, mentioning fake arrests we'd staged to boost my cred. They weren't looking for an undercover. Not yet, but their scrutiny felt like a noose tightening. After what felt like hours, he tossed me a bag of dope and told me to get lost. I asked if it was safe. "Yeah," he said, his smile thin. "New package, old ones off the streets." I didn't believe him. The bag went to evidence, like always. But the lab's delays meant I wouldn't know for days, maybe weeks, if it was hot. The next morning, I was back on the streets by 7:30, my routine unchanged. Begged for smokes outside a liquor store, harassed the owner for a free bottle, anything to keep Jody's presence solid. The owner, a grizzled guy who usually cursed me out, never gave me a thing. It kept my cover tight. But that day, he didn't just yell. He called me by my street name, Jody, his voice low, eyes flickering with something I couldn't place. "Someone's looking for you," he said. My blood went cold. He didn't know my street name. No one did, unless they'd been told. I postured, playing the part, snarling. "Who's here looking for me? I'm right here. Ain't hiding." But he didn't bite. "Some guy called the store," he said. "Asked if I'd seen you. Said to tell you to call him back." My mind raced. No junkie had a cell phone. They'd pawned it for a hit in a heartbeat. A call like that meant the department, or worse. I found a payphone, fumbled for change, and dialed the office, keeping my voice rough, staying in character. The guy who picked up passed the phone to my contact, and that's when the world tilted. "Jody, you need to get your ass off the street," he said, his voice tight with panic. "Now." I demanded to know why, and his next words hit like a blade. "You should be dead already." He repeated it, urging me to come in before I got myself killed. My cover was burned, not suspected, but known. We set a pickup point, somewhere discreet, and I waited. Every shadow a threat, every passerby a potential killer. When my coworker's car pulled up, I climbed in, fury boiling over. Stepping into that car torched years of work. My identity as Jody reduced to ash. I demanded answers, and he gave them. The department had a mic in that trap house. They'd heard everything. The lieutenant, the dealers, talking about a hot shot, dope place to kill, not to get you high. After our gang bust, someone tipped them off about an undercover in their midst. They didn't know who, so they flooded the streets with hot shots, targeting any junkie they suspected. 50 bodies, maybe more, all to flush out. Their plan was brutally simple. Junkies don't sit on dope. They use it. If I bought a bag and didn't die, it meant I wasn't using. It meant I was a cop. The bag I'd bought the day before was a hot shot, meant to end me. The dealers had put the green light on Jody, my name on their lips. 100 street soldiers hunting me with pistols tucked in their waistbands, itching for the glory of blood. The mic caught it all. My cover name spelled out. Their reasoning laid bare. If they talked about it, if I hadn't hit the liquor store at that exact moment, if the call hadn't reached me, I'd be dead, shot in an alley or poisoned by the bag I'd bought. I went over it 1,000 times in my head, each scenario ending with my body cooling on the pavement. The odds were impossible, a lottery of life I had no right to win. My coworkers were angels, pulled me out, but I don't believe in miracles. I believe in luck, in the razor-thin chance that saved me. The streets were still out there, festering, and sometimes, in the dark, I hear them whispering my name, waiting for me to slip back into their grasp. I'm Ethan, born in Edgewick, a rough patch of Coventry, England, where the 1970s clung to the city like a damp stain. As a boy, my grandparents were my haven. Granddad, a weathered man with calloused hands, taught me to cast a line and aim a pellet gun. His lessons sharp and practical. But Nana, Eileen Tops, was a saint. Her kitchen a sanctuary of gingerbread men and roast potatoes so perfect they've haunted every meal since. People loved her, stopping her in the street with warm words and smiles. As a lad, I thought she was just everyone's favorite, like she was mine. I didn't know her kindness masked a courage forged in terror, that her name was whispered in Coventry for reasons darker than her apple pies. Nana was an air raid warden during the Second World War, a truth I uncovered years later, when childhood's glow gave way to grim reality. During the Blitz, when German bombers turned nights into hell, men were off fighting and women like Nana filled the gaps. Police, firefighters, rubble sifters, and wardens who patrolled the blacked-out streets to keep the city hidden from the enemy above. If a sliver of light escaped your curtains, Nana's fist would rattle your window, a warning that could save lives. She walked those silent streets alone, her torch dim, like bombs wailed and the city held its breath. One night, in a blackout so thick it seemed the world had dissolved, a scream shattered the quiet, raw, desperate, echoing from streets away. The blackout made every sound a blade, and that cry cut deep. Nana ran toward it, her boots hammering the pavement, her pulse a frantic drum. She collided with Tom, another warden, his face ghostly under his helmet. They searched the alleys of Edgewick, where the air reeked of smoke and dread. Minutes later, they found her, a young woman crumpled in a shadowed alley, blood seeping into the cobblestones. Stabbed, barely alive, she was rushed to a hospital and survived, but only by a thread. She described her attacker, a nondescript man, working class, in an overcoat and cap. His face a blur, but his knife sharp. Whispers labeled her a prostitute, out defying the blackout for trade. She denied it, shame sealing her lips, but the truth lingered like a bruise. Days later, another attack, too far for Nana's rounds to catch the scream. Another woman, another suspected prostitute. But this one didn't make it. Her throat was cut, the wound precise, deliberate, a killer learning from his first mistake. The wardens called him the Blackout Ripper, a monster born in Coventry's darkest hours. The timing was grotesque. Bombs united the city in defiance. But this predator was one of us, a traitor stalking the shadows. Rumors festered. Some called him a German spy sent to break our spirit. He wasn't, but the fear was a living thing, creeping into every home. The attacks grew bolder, a rhythm of terror. Prostitutes vanished from the streets, hiding from the blade. But the Ripper's hunger didn't fade. One night, he tried breaking into a woman's home, thinking her alone. Her husband, bathing upstairs, chased him off, naked and roaring, his rage a fleeting victory. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. No one was safe. Not prostitutes, not housewives, not anyone. The city's anger erupted. Why hadn't the police stopped him after the first attack? How had they let him strike again and again? The superintendent promised more patrols, more wardens, but it was a frail shield. The Ripper was a wraith, dodging officers and wardens with ease. Women couldn't patrol alone, forced to pair up, thinning the city's defenses. Even with reinforcements, the streets were a labyrinth of shadows. The night the patrols were meant to restore safety, he struck again. A prostitute, lured by the promise of protection, took to the streets. Her body was found at dawn, mutilated, the savagery, a taunt. The city was a powder keg, and the Ripper was the flame. Someone had to act, or he'd start breaking down doors, his blade insatiable. That's when Nana made her choice, a plan so reckless it bordered on suicide. She'd pose as a prostitute, bait to draw him out, armed with nothing but a tin whistle to summon hidden officers. No gun, no club, just that flimsy whistle and her iron will. I still burn with rage thinking of it. They sent her into the dark with nothing but her courage. At the police station, she prepared, slipping into a fine dress, her makeup a mask of defiance. The officers took their posts, concealed in alleys and doorways, and Nana stepped into the blackout, her heels echoing on Cap Martin Road, where the first blood was spilled. She walked for hours, the silence suffocating, the darkness a weight on her chest. No one came, no footsteps, no shadows. Doubt gnawed at her. Maybe he wouldn't show. Then, turning down a back street between Chevrolet Avenue and Grandmouth Road, she realized her error. It was a dead end, a trap she'd walked into. She turned to leave, and there he was, a silhouette 50 feet away, blocking her escape. No Bobby's helmet, just an overcoat and cape, his form a void in the moonlight. She called out, her voice steady, despite the fear clawing at her throat. He didn't answer, just advanced, his steps quick, silent, predatory. She saw him reach into his jacket, saw the blades glint. Her hand dove for the whistle, her only hope, but it caught on a brass button, slipping from her fingers, clattering to the pavement. Time stopped. He was closing in, his steps a death knell. She dropped to her knees, scrambling for the whistle, her fingers grazing cold stone. Terror gripping her, but something fiercer surged, a defiance that burned like fire. She tore off her shoe, brandishing the heel like a weapon, and screamed, "My name is Warden Eileen Tops, and you're bloody well under arrest." He laughed, a low guttural rasp. "What are you planning to do with that?" But Nana didn't waver. "I'll have your bloody eye out with this heel if you come near me," she roared, her voice shattering the night. People streets away heard her, a clarion call of fury. For a moment, he faltered, his confidence fracturing. Then, from the shadows, two bobbies came charging, their shouts splitting the dark. "Stop where you are!" The trap turned. Nana, cornered seconds before, had cornered him. He tried to flee, clawing at the wall, but the officers were faster, dragging him down, their truncheons falling like judgment. They hauled him to the station, bloodied, his blade seized, his terror ended. Nana was a hero, her name immortalized in newspaper clippings we still keep. Faded but fierce. Even as her memory dimmed in her final years, she held that night close, the night she faced the Blackout Ripper and brought him down. But the darkness lingers. I see her in my dreams, alone in that alley, her whistle lost, her shoe raised against a monster. And sometimes, in the still of the night, I hear his footsteps, soft and deliberate, waiting for another chance to strike. I lived in New York my whole life. The city's pulse is familiar to me as my own heartbeat. Its chaos, its noise, its rhythm, they're woven into me, especially the subway, that grimy, rattling beast that carried me through my teenage years. Sophomore year of high school, I was 15, skinny and awkward. My daily commute from school to home, a ritual so ingrained it was muscle memory. The same train line, the same stops, the same shuffle of bodies in and out of the cars. I'd slipped into my headphones, one ear free to catch the garbled stop announcements or any hint of trouble. But I wasn't really listening. Not anymore. The routine had dulled my senses, lulled me into a false sense of safety. That was my mistake, and it nearly cost me everything. It was a spring afternoon, the kind where the city air feels thick with the promise of rain, heavy and electric. I boarded the train as usual, second car from the end, the doors hissing shut behind me. The car was half full, commuters staring at their phones, a couple of kids laughing too loud, an old woman clutching her purse. And then there was him, a man, maybe in his 30s, slouched in a seat near the back, his voice cutting through the hum of the train. He was yelling, not at anyone in particular, just spitting words into the air. Curses, fragments of sentences, a jagged stream of rage. His clothes were torn, his hair matted, his hands restless. I'd seen guys like him before. The subway's full of them, lost souls shouting at ghosts. I didn't think much of it, just another day in New York. The train idled at the platform, and two cops stepped into the car, their radios crackling. They scanned the crowd, their faces hard but bored, and asked if we felt safe, if the train was okay to leave. A woman near the front muttered, "No," her eyes flicking toward the yelling man. A guy in a suit shrugged and said, "Yeah, it's fine." I kept my head down, my headphones blaring a lo-fi beat, and stayed quiet. The man's voice grew sharper, aimed at the cops now, taunting them. "You don't know shit," he spat, his warnings slurring but venomous. The cops didn't flinch, just exchanged a look and stepped off as the doors opened. The train lurched forward, and I told myself it was nothing, just noise, just the city. Then he said it. His voice cut through the rumble of the tracks, clear as a blade. "What they don't know is I've got a big-ass knife." My blood froze. I tried to reason with myself. He's just talking, he's high or drunk or both. People say crazy shit on the subway all the time. But my gut screamed something different, a primal warning that sank claws into my chest. I glanced at him, just a quick flick of my eyes, and saw his hand fidgeting in his jacket pocket, moving like it was cradling something heavy, something sharp. His face was shadowed under a dirty cap, but his mouth twitched, like he was smiling at a secret only he knew. The train slowed for the next stop, and the air shifted. People moved, not casually, but with purpose, their eyes darting toward the man. Some got off, their steps quick and quiet. Others, like me, slipped into the next car over, the one closest to the end. I pushed through the connecting doors, my heart hammering, and found a spot to stand near the pole. A guy from my school, someone I'd chatted with a few times, was there too. He'd been in the same car, had seen the same thing. He plopped into a seat next to me, his face pale but trying to play it cool. Our eyes met and we both forced a laugh, a shaky attempt to brush off the dread. "The guy's wild, huh?" he said, but his voice trembled. I noticed my throat too tight to answer. The train started moving again, the wheels screeching against the tracks. I tried to focus on the music in my one earbud, on the familiar sway of the car, but something pulled my gaze to the connecting door. Through the scratched, foggy glass, I saw him. He was standing now, his eyes locked onto mine, unblinking, like he'd been waiting for me to look. They were dark, not just in color, but in a way that felt empty, like staring into a void. My breath caught, and then he started moving. Fast, deliberate. His boot thudded against the floor as he strode toward the door. Fight or flight kicked in, and flight one. I shoved past a group of commuters, my shoulder banging into someone's bag, my apologies lost in the panic. I glanced back and he was already in my car, his frame filling the doorway, his hand still in that damn pocket. He was feet away, close enough that I could smell the stale sweat and something metallic on him. My life flashed before me, not like in the movies, but in fragments. My mom's laugh, my dog's wet nose, the way the city lights looked from my bedroom window. I prayed a jumbled, desperate plea to anything listening and stumbled toward an empty seat. He reached me. I braced for the worst, for the glint of a blade, for pain. But he just shoved me hard, his hand slamming into my chest. I fell into the seat, the air knocked out of me, my headphones slipping off. He didn't stop, didn't look back, just kept walking, his boots echoing as he moved to the far end of the car. I sat there gasping, my hands shaking so bad I couldn't grip the pole. Relief flooding me, but it was tainted, sour. I wasn't stabbed, wasn't bleeding, but the weight of what could have happened pressed down on me, heavy as a subway itself. My stop was next. The train screeched to a halt, and I bolted, my sneakers pounding the platform. I didn't look back until I was out of the station, the daylight harsh and unreal for the dimness of the train. I checked over my shoulder, half expecting to see him there, his eyes still locked on me, his hand still in his pocket. The street was empty, but I ran anyway, my breath ragged, until I was home. I called my mom, my voice cracking as I spilled it all. The yelling, the knife, the way he looked at me, the way he followed me. She listened, her silence filled with worry, and told me to stay aware, to change my route, to never get so comfortable again. I kept replaying it, dissecting every moment. It was the middle of the day, the car full of people. Would he really have done something with so many witnesses? New York's even worse. Slashings, stabbings, even in broad daylight on packed trains. It's happening more than people like to admit. But maybe I was overreacting. Maybe he was just a guy having a bad day, talking big to fill something. Maybe the knife was a lie, a boast to scare the cops. But then I see his eyes again, those black empty pools, and I feel the weight of his stare, the way he moved toward me like I was marked. My intuitions never steered me wrong before. And that day, it was screaming. The chills that ran through me, the way my body knew to run before my brain caught up. I can't shake that. I don't take that route anymore. I keep both ears free now. No headphones. My eyes scanning every face, every movement. I see him sometimes, in the flicker of a stranger's glance, in the shadow of a man standing too close on the platform. I don't know what he wanted, not really. To scare me? To haunt me? To prove something to himself? All I know is that for a moment, I was in his sights and I got out. But the fear lingers, a cold hand on my shoulder, reminding me of how close I came to something I can't name. Man on the train, let's not meet again. Not ever. And that, dear listeners, brings a close to these true scary stories. Before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge the rest of the membership of Back to Ashes. Thank you all so much for your dedicated and continued support. It means more to me than I can put into words. To the newbies who are checking in to Back to Ashes for the very first time, thank you so much for your support. As I have always said, to every member, every new listener. If it weren't for you, I would not have a voice and this channel would not exist. Thank you. If you are sleeping, I hope Slumberland is treating you comfortably. If you're awake, I hope you enjoyed these selections. Until next time, stay vigilant and please stay safe out there. I'll be reading to you soon. Have yourself a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening. Peace, love, and light to you all.